Hello, everyone. My name is Julie McVeigh, and this is Unordinary Made Ordinary, where we talk about extraordinary experiences of everyday people. And today we're talking with Kenneth Hopkins. Welcome to the program.
Glad to be aboard.
I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out and share with me some pretty fascinating experiences. I think the listeners are going to be very interested in this interview. Would you mind, and Kenny, you said you like to go by, so I'll just call you Kenny. Would you mind if sharing just a little bit of background about yourself?
Okay. For most of my life, like many people, I had no idea of the abductions or that I was having abductions, which are actual teleportations. And they take us from our room and they put us in places that they wish to put us in. So I started getting flashbacks about 2003, and that opened up the whole doors with hypnosis and recovering of the experiences with the Pleiadeans, the Greys, and a military group.
Well, okay. Would you mind sharing anything? You don't have to, but if you want to share anything about maybe your family life or your career life or, where you grew up, any of those kinds of things, or please don't feel pressured to share anything you don't feel comfortable sharing.
I grew up in a small town of Andover, and then we moved to Raleigh, Massachusetts. And then I went to Western Mass to go to University of Massachusetts after coming out of the military. I'm a disabled vet, and I kind of ran into the military from a group of homicides, which kind of set my life into the military. And then eventually I was discharged with honorable discharge. So it's the process has been quite a self-discovery process in recognizing both which groups I was involved with the Celestials. And also another thing that's very common is just about everybody that's had abductions is telepathic. So that telepathic ability opens up psychic awareness. And often with early psychic awareness, especially as children, we often end up communicating with bad spirits, with harmful spirits. And that was something that I felt a lot of people I've spoken with have, as children, come up with a lot of these negative spiritual experiences.
And you were when you were a child, did you start experiencing things and realize that you had telepathy, or that probably didn't come until much later?
The telepathy kind of came as early as I can remember. And which had the spirits in the house I was living in had killed themselves, a couple of them. And so they were trying to get me to do likewise as a child. So I was getting kind of tormented from them for quite a while. And then I thought I was talking to imaginary friends.
Right. Yeah. You're just a kid. You were how old at this time?
Probably about 6, 7. And so I assumed the voices in my head were imagination, were self-created. And then in the 70s, I got to see that what was going on with the voices was taking root in my life.
You had no one to share this with? Did you share this with your parents or anyone else in your life?
My mother was aware of my psychic abilities. And directed, because I was giving her predictions of things before they would happen. So she seemed to be aware of that. I don't know why I was getting these particular predictions. They were more general news topics. They weren't really, specifically or connected to me. So in the mid 70s was when everything kind of broke out with the military involvement, them witnessing an abduction, and then things became very confusing for me at that time. And
Oh.
the blackouts with dates, or missing time with dates, was becoming common. But at 22, I really didn't know what to do about that. Most of the girls didn't realize there was missing time. The 16-hour one was definitely realized.
Wow.
But most of them would be, the girls would just somehow miss. They would describe being spacey, being disoriented, feeling strange.
Now, these are girls in a project or program?
No,
or
I was
something?
in college at the time, and I was
Oh, okay.
meeting and going out with people, and this is like
Oh.
1976.
Okay, I thought this was in the military or
No,
something. Okay,
it continued in the military.
gotcha. Wow.
But I didn't know what it was, and so I ignored them. I pretended they didn't occur. I didn't know how to investigate to find out what happened in that blackout or missing time experience.
Yeah.
At 22, I didn't have a clue.
Yeah, and how would you?
Because I thought it was, but the dissociative process is in my age group. When interviewing people in my age group, I found a very common abuse pattern, childhood abuse. And for some reason, it was very prevalent in my age group with abductees.
Oh, so if you had been abused?
No, I think the abusers in some of the cases, and I'm just going with few cases, weren't aware they did the abuse.
Wow. Okay.
And so I got in three or four cases I was studying, that was becoming apparent that the mother, in my case, had no recollection of the beatings. So the
mother would beat the child and not remember?
Yeah. And
Wow.
and so I have three cases that were particular to this, and plus other cases came up with the abuse factor, but I didn't get to check to see if the mother had memory or not. But there seemed to be a pattern where the parent didn't have memory, and the celestials were aware of the abuse patterns.
What are the celestials? Can you define that? I'm not familiar with that terminology.
Okay, I know I don't like extraterrestrial.
Oh, so you use celestials.
I use the word celestial.
Okay.
In my particular contacts, the majority of contacts are with the Pleiadeans. And then,
they not, out of curiosity, have you asked, do they not like the terminology extraterrestrials, or do you not know?
No, I was working with a professor on my first book, and he gave me the idea of celestial.
Okay.
And extraterrestrial, so I often use celestial. I also use abductee, contactee together.
Abductee, contactee, okay.
Because, if I was given a choice or told when they're going to take me, that would be nice. But I'm not given it. They have been very busy with me, more or less. More recently, it has gone way up.
So what is the purpose of them? The Pleiadians mostly? Is it mostly the Pleiadians?
It's mostly the Pleiadians. The Greys have been very protective. And the Greys have done some medical.
Oh.
Pleiadians have done medical. And the advanced military group, a US military group with the ET technologies, has done some medical. I don't know if I sent you that picture of the rib, the chest.
Yes, you put that in the group.
Yeah, they recently did that, and that they said was a lung transplant.
Now they did that for you because you were having some issue with your lungs?
There actually was, but by the time I got done with all the pain, because the pain was so severe, my family wanted me in a hospital. After I got done with the pain, I slowly realized that just prior to that surgery, I was having respiratory difficulty. I was feeling like I was suffocating at night. And
you had not seen a doctor for it?
Well, they've been doing routine x-rays. That's why I was a little surprised it started happening.
Mm.
And then I was losing sleep. It was getting really bad. And then they did the surgery.
Mhm.
But the recent lung x-rays showed everything to be good. So I don't know what was going with the lung that they replaced. But that was done by the military group.
Okay,
And
I'm a little confused. So the military group?
there's 3 groups. There may be 4 groups that take me, but there's.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. When you were
And-
saying the military, I'm thinking when you were in the military.
Okay, no, there's a military group that's been actively involved in some of my abductions.
Okay, it's a celestial or
It's a
ET.
it's a US military group with the
Oh,
celestial technologies.
Oh, okay.
The technologies, mankind has the technologies to abandon the planet right now.
Wow. Okay.
They have the ships. In the interviews I've been doing, I heard about the Greys completing constructions of ships for evacuation of Earth. There's people being asked if they want to leave. There's people being evacuated.
Okay.
And so this is where I'm getting most of my information, is interviewing people around the world.
Okay.
And so the more interviews I can get with people having celestial contact, that's giving me the information on their particular celestials.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right. So what are the groups? Could you name them? This is all
Oh.
brand new material for
Okay.
me. I mean,
I
all
know.
of this,
I think
my head's like exploding right now. I'm trying to keep track of what the heck.
there's a lot of celestials taking involvement with man, with particular groups of people. There's many different groups of celestials involved. And what they're trying to do is raise the frequencies
Okay.
to higher frequencies, love, compassion, versus the dominant frequencies that we're kind of stuck in.
The lower
The lower frequencies, fear, anger, division.
So how are they raising it? Do you know? Like, practically speaking, what are they?
There's several things going on with the raising. There's downloading is one method people are discussing, where they're hearing sounds in their ears.
Yep.
And a lot of people are confusing it for tinnitus, but it's not tinnitus. We did some work with recording these sounds that people were getting in their ears. So they're like frequency. It's a strange kind of music.
Okay.
I know you really can't call it, but it's
not really music, but it's
a
not
series of pitches and sounds.
Okay. And I am so sorry, we still didn't get to the names. What are the 4 names of the groups? I'm all over the place.
No, take your time. There's over 20 groups involved with man.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 4 major ones. No,
there's 3 I'm involved with.
3. Okay, sorry.
And there may be a 4th, but so the abuse we felt was purposeful.
Well, wait, what are the names of the groups? Can you give the names of the groups?
Yeah, Pleiadeans, Greys, and I'm just going to say U.S. military group and let it at that. I don't want to be any more specific as to the branch.
You don't know who they're working with, though? Which ETs of the U.S. military are working with in that group?
All the military branches are involved with the ETs.
With all kinds of, like, not just Pleiadians, not just Greys, but all kinds.
Department of Defense, the Navy, U.S. Army, Marines.
Which ETs are they?
They all have different groups. The reptilians have played a heavy influence, a very negative influence.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of games with some U.S. military branches working with the reptilians.
Okay.
The reptilians work with fear. They work with the lower frequencies. That's what they are most comfortable to exist in.
Okay.
They can't handle. They don't. In the encounters I've heard, rapes are being described. It's a very fearful experience for those that I've interviewed. Which I haven't. I've done 3 or 4 with the reptilians. Most of my interviews are with people having the positive experiences.
With Pleiadians, I've heard, are positive.
Yeah, the light
Um,
beings.
okay.
There's non-carbon based life forms that people are interacting with. Now,
Wow.
the abductees line up with soul families. And so they're brought, and they're all, many of them, abductees, contactees, have come, their souls have come from other planetary systems.
Okay. So they're star seeds.
They're
Is that what it's
star
called?
seeds. Yeah.
Gotcha. Heard
And
that.
they're coming, and they've been brought from many different universes to raise the frequencies on Earth.
Okay.
And so there's that common goal of the higher frequencies of love, us as one. The Pleiadians don't believe in a God. They believe in an energy of creation, which we are our creators, and we are also a creation. We're both creators and creator and a creation. So they see it as oneness.
Okay.
And the division works, and the societies work on the divisions, works to keep the separation, works to break up the combining of the frequencies. So a lot of the star seeds, that we'll call them, are coming from many planets, and then the ETs, like guardians, are watching over them.
I see. Okay.
And there's telepathic communication ongoing between the star seeds and the celestials.
Okay. Is this a new thing over the last decade or a couple decades, or?
It's kind of been progressing.
Okay.
Like the Greys are very aggressive in their early hybrid projects. The Pleiadians had some concerns. There's the Pleiadians and the Greys are working together, but historically they have had many conflicts.
Okay.
The Pleiadians haven't had wars or killed one another. They're a very advanced culture. They haven't killed one another in thousands of years, they tell me. And they consider us pretty low on the scale, especially with homicides, with
Sure.
our general society.
Our violence and
Of violence and materialistic materialism. The Pleiadians don't have a monetary system. They don't have a profit system. Everybody is equal. People exchange. Everybody takes roles. They each have their own role to do, and each role is considered as important as the other role, just like the screws to an engine are just as important as the larger moving parts. That's just a brief concept. So they don't have the motive for greed in their culture. A lot of the dynamics of the Pleiadians seem to play out with the American Indians, with the similar kind of government, in the similar, as far as materialism goes, as far as profit goes, those aren't existent in the culture. They serve one another, which serving one another is serving the creator, since the creator and us are one.
Yeah.
So they don't have, they're absent of fear. They definitely, I have to say, all the celestials, the ones that I've been getting positive from, are advanced as far as spiritually. And go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just curious about your abductions, like when your memories, I mean, maybe it's been happening all along, but when did you start realizing and being conscious of these abductions and getting the downloads and starting to grow an understanding? How long has that been happening?
Well, in 2001 and 2002, I started getting these horrible flashbacks. And so I wanted to find out what these flashbacks were from. I knew they were from the mid-70s, but one particular flashback had to do with a 16-year-old girl, I'll call her. And she had gone through a series of convulsions, very violent convulsions. And so the ETs took us both
Oh,
to explore what was causing her convulsions.
okay. So a lot of these abductions are to help us medically.
Medically, in many ways.
Okay.
And in there's no experimental going on, not in the procedures I've had. They know what they're doing. When in the 50s, in 54, I think it was when the Eisenhower treaties were signed or brought in. Everybody was more interested in military weapons. Nobody had an interest in medicine, the advanced medical systems. So, and the Celestials have many methods, surgical methods. I have a lot of surgical marks on me from them. Most of us have several implants. The implants, I think, serve to monitor the body.
Oh, okay. I was curious
Yeah,
what that would be for. Okay.
yeah, and they have their various different shapes, everything from a BB. The nasal passage was very popular with the Greys. So children with severe nosebleeds
okay.
Was a sign of the Greys, because they put the, I don't know if they're doing this anymore, but they'd put the implant in the nasal passage into a side, and in some cases, they actually indented in the bone where it was placed.
And are these Greys, the child that they might be doing this to is one of their own kind of a thing, like a star seed that they want to keep track and keep them healthy, or do you know?
I don't understand my full connection or how I became connected. The Pleiadeans said I was born into them. The Pleiadeans consider the seeding of Earth thousands of years ago. Those that are off-bred from those seedings, they consider Pleiadeans.
Okay, so help me understand, what is seedings? What does that mean, practically speaking? I thought when people said starseed, I thought it just meant that somebody from another planet incarnated here as a human.
Okay, that's going on as well.
Okay.
But also, our anthropology is pretty much bullshit. The Mayan calendar tells a better story than our anthropologists are telling us. So the Mayan calendar speaks of 3 periods in which the earth went through devastation, and then regrew life and regrew man. So they said tens of thousands of years ago, they brought life to this planet. They civilized this planet. So
they meaning Pleiadians or
Pleiadians.
Pleiadians, okay.
And so in their breeding program, they're having us mate with the ones from the planetary systems that are coming over, and also with the ones on Earth. Because I thought I was calling it a hybrid project.
Right.
And they said, no, we're not a hybrid project. We're breeding amongst our own.
Okay.
So that they are very concerned about Earth for numerous reasons, but one, because they have many of theirs on this planet to begin with. So they said I was born into them.
Okay, so what does that mean?
I'm not exactly sure, but
okay.
I started out, and most of us have good past life recollections. Many of us have good life past recollections. We know our past lives. I was in Atlantis. I went to the American Indians. I spent many lives with the American Indians. 1647 as a woman, I went to England. Then I spent lives as a cowboy, and then Germany. And so we all have these continuous patterns of
How,
lives.
how did you start to recognize your past lives? When did you start?
Well, I had this relation. The first one started with a relationship with a stranger that was very powerful for me. And I couldn't understand how a total stranger could be so familiar. And then I had the lucid, I don't want to call them dreams, because the Buddhists think we actually are going back to that time in an astral state.
Right.
In an astral state, we can travel to our past and we can travel to our future.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, so those are how many of us were getting our recollections.
Okay.
That particular recollection had to do with the bubonic plague in Europe, and it was wiping many people out. I was a child of 7. I was put into the woods with the others that were dying, and so I and this child, we played amongst the people dying, and then eventually, I don't remember. I'm assuming I died, but I had petted a wolf's head, and that's my father shot a wolf, and I was stroking its head as it was dying, and that's why I was banished from the colony, because the wolf was considered had the fleas that carry the plague.
I see.
So I don't know if I don't remember what happened at the end of that one. So we get fragments of memories.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that was trigger is meeting people from your soul family.
Okay.
That incredible feeling of familiarity.
Right.
Because when we travel, and the spiritualists follow along a lot with the Buddhist aspects, we travel through lives in a group.
I've heard that.
They could be our father, they could be our sister, they could be our wife, but our souls travel with particular groups, and they refer to them often as soul families.
Right, right.
And they could become your spouse, they can become, and as somebody has said, everybody you meet, you either have something to give or they have something to give you.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask if you could share, if you want to, a couple of these abductions and what it was like for you.
Yeah, well, I wrote one on your thing. That was one that I was somewhat confused by, because I didn't know what or who she was.
Right.
Or where she was. And she was looking for a relationship.
Oh.
But I couldn't get beyond the drugged
What is
dopey.
that drug dopey? What is that from? Feeling like you're drugged during one of these?
I think the electromagnetic frequencies, which I'm in the process of photographing abductions. And the electromagnetic frequencies disrupt and destroy the equipment. So we've lost a lot of cameras, batteries explode. So I finally got a system that does somewhat record. I published those in some of the still shots I published in my book in 2016.
So you did write a book, and I do want you to be able to share that with us.
I wish it's
either brought it. Yeah, I had a copy.
I've been giving them all away.
What is it called?
Earth Transformation.
Okay, and when did you publish this?
That was first 2015. Then we improved it and did it in 2016.
Okay.
Much better organized. There's some issues with the editing. My editor, he was a brilliant professor, and he's dead now, but he helped me put the things together that was going on to help me understand what was going on, because he was involved in the intelligence aspects. He was involved in translating the German documents for the development of the CIA, FBI for our intelligence structure came out of Germany. And so he was involved in the translations of those intelligence organizations. So he also was very aware of the celestial presence. And so what happens with a lot of people, the ETs take you from a deep state of sleep. They're not taking you, and I'm speaking for the Pleiadeans specifically.
Right.
So they don't want your waking state personality. Another personality becomes interactive, and that's the one they interact with. The Pleiadians say it's you without memory, but in a sense, it's another personality.
Interesting.
So many of us have dreams of watching ourselves, of feeling of almost like shadowing ourselves in these experiences.
Yeah, being the observer. Yeah.
And I think the abusive factor that was taking place was precipitated by the ETs for the dissociative process, for dissociation, to create the multiple personalities. Because it was too much of a pattern for my age group that was involved in abductions, that I was seeing the abuse factors.
So what would you say is the bottom line purpose of the Celestials? To improve the planet Earth for our future?
Something comes to occur. I don't know what it is. There's some kind of catastrophe. The Pleiadians are telling me they've come from the future to prevent what has occurred, which is describing us somewhat in the past of some horrific event of the planet. I don't know what the event is, but the event is supposed to play a role in raising all the frequencies on the planet. Okay. Removing fear.
And what's the timeline, or do you know the timeline?
No.
No.
Okay. The only thing I have for a timeline is they sent me to a future. And I've talked to others that have gone to the similar future. And basically no technologies, and everybody's living in the remnants of this culture. Abandoned structures, abandoned buildings, very primitive. So the particular house I visited, 50 to 100 years, it hadn't been maintained, is what I assume. All I can see is what time did to this house. Holes in the roof, leaves blowing around in the house, holes in the floor, and a young woman was living in this house, and she was the one I was visiting. And so I went to turn the faucet on. Of course, no water came. So that's.
Is this kind of an astral projection visit? Would you say? Is that how that works?
That one was a physical teleportation.
Okay.
And I'm photographing the teleportations. I'm working. I got still shots of them. But what I'm trying to do and setting up for is getting video of them. But when I'm teleported and when I return, I come back so hot that my body's like it's on fire. And
you're bringing just a regular camera with you?
No, I can't. I had to go to an old system camera. Okay. And all abductions are occurring in people's bedrooms. And many people have no idea because it's an alternate personality. It's not their waking state personality interacting with the celestials. Okay. I also think there's a fifth dimensional aspect here with the celestials, that this personality is very involved in the third dimension. In the fifth dimension, there's no cheating. You can't lie. when people can see your lies,
Hmm.
they don't work.
Right.
So in the fifth dimension, so I think many times they're bringing us into their fifth dimension to experience. So I think that may be one reason why the personalities are change. But I'm working to get memory. And the hypnosis, I was hoping to bring the personalities together, but I wasn't successful. I wasn't able to do that completely.
Oh gosh, there's so much to this.
There's
I
a
know
lot.
we're just kind of scratching the surface here, and there's so much material, but I just, I wanted to, you have such an interesting story that I never heard before. So, or a lot of pieces of it. So I'm learning. I mean, it's all new to me.
Yeah, your sister should. So one of the things we're trying to do, and I'm doing mentoring, is to help people understand what they're experiencing. And this is helping me get information and also help them understand.
Yeah.
Now, what we're getting in photography is we're getting a number of methods in which people are taken from their bedrooms. In one method, they become two. And I've filmed these I've done this with single shot, a personal split. One will remain in the bed, the other will leave.
And it does seem like two physical people.
I'll send you some pictures.
Okay.
But you'll see two me's. You see one getting out of the bed, and you see one sleeping in the bed. And so I got that in several houses. Now, when that person separates, the ETs won't let them eat. They can't, when they do surgery, they have to take the whole body.
Oh, okay.
They can't take the self that leaves.
Right.
So that's when they use plasma. The method that was identified as plasma teleportation. Now, Star Trek attempts to show a form of plasma. I don't know if you remember the old series.
Yeah.
So the government knows all about these technologies. The public isn't getting any information on these technologies. MIT has been researching with plasma teleportation. They've done a lot with being able to teleport a person from one place to another. YouTube has videos of people disappearing. So when we travel, and they're sending me to places in this country, they're sending me to places overseas, we don't know where we are. I'm starting to ask, where am I?
So the purpose behind all of this?
One of them, I think, is to get us interactive in the fifth dimension.
Okay.
The other is classes. Classes that we don't remember.
Okay.
We remember going to the class, remember coming back from the
class. We don't
class.
remember it in our brain consciously, but subconsciously where we have it. Information.
They've said the memory will come when it's time.
Okay.
But in these, they're teaching us their technologies, their sciences.
Oh, all right.
And their sciences the sciences we're getting, there's two different sciences being taught in our educational system. What's being taught at MIT is not the same physics being taught at Greenfield Community College or community colleges, or the Ivy Leagues have the physics that works theoretically.
And why aren't they teaching?
Because they don't want the technologies connected to the people that know they exist. The biggest reason why the government's hidden the celestial involvement, because it doesn't want people knowing about the technologies.
Why not?
Because
but the celestials do, right? And
I've been on the ships with the celestials, the ships of communities. They have back and forth travel, both to here and back to their system. I believe man has those same technologies, and I believe what's going on with the elite right now is they're setting up for an evacuation of Earth.
Rather than take care of the planet, let's just evacuate.
They're more, they feel they can leave with their riches.
Okay. Yeah.
They know that climate change is occurring. They're very aware of it, but they also have their ships to evacuate with.
Interesting.
Because I've seen the ships, I've seen the sharing of the technology, so I know that man has those technologies.
We're actually getting out. We're running out of time. We're just barely getting into this. This is just all kind of like, there's so much information here. My head is sort of spinning.
Yeah.
But I wanted to give you a chance to also share with the listeners how they can connect with you before we leave, and anything else on your heart that you're thinking, oh, there's this one or two things I really wanted to make sure I get out.
No, I think I've kind of touched on around everything.
I know, a little here, a little snippet here. Yeah.
There becomes a lot more detail oriented. The Pleiadeans will not tolerate violence at all.
I like that.
And the humans are the aggressors usually.
Yeah, well, because we're very fear.
So when we're involved with the Pleiadeans, if we become aggressive, we're sent right back to our bedroom.
Yeah.
They won't tolerate any level of it.
Yeah.
And so the only aggression that exists is with the humans they're taking up and bringing back.
So you're telling us to chill out, is what you're saying?
We are one. This world is one. All countries, all religions, we are one. And as long as society keeps us divided, it keeps us weak.
Right.
That's kind of a message that they've been giving is about love and coming together as one.
Well, I like that message. I really appreciate you hanging out with me for a little bit, and I'm going to share your links, well, to your book and anything else in the description so people can connect with you.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the connections.
Okay.
Because it's getting me information on what is going on. What people are witnessing in their abductions. One woman describing people, the Greys getting on a Grey ship and getting ready to leave. People being asked if they want to leave. And so there's a lot going on. So I have a Facebook page, which I've been doing a lot through Messenger. I do a lot through. So I kind of like to bring people into Messenger. And I've been doing a lot of texting, but I'm finding a lot of people want a dialogue. I tried to set up a website, but the ones that are monitoring this computer wouldn't let it exist. It took me a while to be able to get an email address.
Right.
So probably the best way, if you want to talk to me, is to connect through the email. Actually, the email I gave you is good.
Okay. And I'll send you what I have. I think I have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have the one. Okay, I think I have it.
And so they can write, and then I can go into conversation with them.
Yes.
And help them understand what is going on, what they're experiencing, it's changing over the decades. The interactions are dramatically changing. The Greys are considered particularly aggressive in the hybrid program in the 70s. Now I'm hearing of people handing them their babies. So that there's a lot, they've taken on a lot more compassion, the Greys have.
Very good.
And the Pleiadians are very compassionate, and I find their channelings are pretty much right on. Most of the channelings I've heard have pretty much been right on with their philosophical aspects.
Oh, okay.
So there's a number of women that have done phenomenal jobs coming across with the Pleiadian channeling.
Okay. So fascinating.
Yeah.
So fascinating. This is, again, it's new information for me, and hopefully I'll be learning a little bit more as you share more also in the group. And so thank you so much to Kenneth Hopkins for being here with us. And thank you to everyone watching. This has been Julie McVeigh with Unordinary Made Ordinary, and I hope you'll join us next time for another fascinating interview. And if you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. And, if you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel. And if you're on YouTube, hit the bell icon so you're alerted to future interviews. And I do hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are on the
It's been
planet
great.
or off the planet. And we will see you next time. Bye,
Welcome.
everyone.